Hi everyone. Friday, April 11th. Beautiful day, as you can see in the background. We've got plenty of sunshine. Unlike the previous part of the week, today I think we got up to or are at about +8. Little bit of a breeze. You might hear in the background my mole deterrent, those little poles that I put in the ground with the washers, and you might hear some tapping. By the way, that seems to be working great. I really don't have any new mole hills out there, which is surprising. I still definitely have moles. I can sense they're still out there, but not a lot of new mole hills, which is great. But back to the weather. It's been kind of a weird week weather-wise. It's been cold. Pretty much since last weekend, or part of last weekend. Pippa wants to join us, I guess. It's been, like I said, cold. During the day, it's been, a few degrees above zero or freezing. During the night, it's, few degrees below freezing. We've had a few days with snow showers. I think I put a few clips at the beginning of this video showing that, but most of all, we've had a pretty persistent wind straight out of the north, so it has been chilly and raw. I do like the fact now, in the old days like last year, previous years, they used to kind of refer to like wind chill, and during the summer they refer to heat index. I do like now they just kind of refer to it as a feels like temperature. It's kind of nice, rather than saying the wind chill is this or the heat index is this, they say the feels like temperature is whatever. But nonetheless, the feels like temperature pretty much all week has been below freezing, pretty raw. I don't mess around with these little tiny chapstick things to keep my lips from drying out. I just take a big gob of Vaseline and just smear it over my lips and face. Sounds kind of redneck, but it works when the wind is raw like that. But the forecast, we're supposed to start warming up this weekend. I still have my hydrangeas and magnolia tree covered up. We're still definitely get some hard freezes in the morning. Again, it gets a little warmer during the day, but we don't want those freezing up. Probably the biggest thing I can mention, which is one of the reasons I'm filming this in my terrace, is unfortunately I managed to throw my back out this week. I don't know how I did it or what happened, but I woke up Tuesday morning and my back was out. Tuesday and Wednesday were pretty tough for me. I struggled to even put a pair of socks on. The strange thing is you'll see later in this video, I've got the clips of I did some cultivating in the garden, and I do have to help that cultivator along. I do push it around, etc. It's not real strenuous, but I did that on Sunday. On Monday, I felt fine. I had no back problems. I did change the oil and do some maintenance on the cultivator on Monday, but that shouldn't have caused this problem. But like I said, I woke up Tuesday morning and I was in pretty bad shape. Yesterday there was some improvement. Today there's some improvement, but I don't want to push my luck. I'm not one to really sit around, so I'm trying to do a few easy jobs just to keep moving. But hopefully I'm on the mend, and soon these back problems will be gone. I'm not sure. I've always been lucky with my back and my knees. I've never really had big problems. I did have some problems with my neck, maybe, 8-9 years ago, but strange thing, but I'm sure it's a culmination of a lot of what I'm doing. I did finish scraping the bricks like over a week ago, so it can't be that. I'll mention about the bricks later on in the video, but I think it's just a culmination of all the back-breaking work that I do around here, plus the fact I'm getting older. Contrary to a video, I think 2 or 3 videos ago, I was talking about, oh, I look so old, but I feel great, or I feel younger than I look. Well, this week, I feel as old as I look, but could be worse problems. I'm getting through it. It only hurts when I move, but again, it's getting better. Hopefully I'll be through it by this weekend. Again, upcoming video or clips in this video. I will show you guys a little bit of, I cultivated the garden last Sunday. I'll talk a little bit about cultivator maintenance, some redneck tree repair I did, or my wife did. And I think I'll close out with just a little update on scraping my bricks. So thanks for clicking on the video. More to come. So last Sunday I decided to drag the cultivator out and cultivate the garden for several reasons. It's been pretty dry and I don't want to wait until the garden's a mud fest, so I figured I'll take care of it. It was kind of a cold and blustery day, but this cultivator, I'll mention later on. I did send it from America. It's always been really reliable. It always starts on the first pull. But obviously, as you can see here, it's not starting on the first pull. So I'll cut to the chase. I went through my little checklist, fuel, everything else, and it turns out I had the on-off switch still set to off. Go figure. So once I got the on-off switch thing worked out, it fired right up. And as you can see, in the garden doing the cultivating, it's a little bit different for me this year or this spring because I've added those raised boxes in that section of the garden. So I don't need to worry about cultivating there. So it's a slightly smaller task for me. Not that it was a big task in past years, but it's a 14-inch wide path that it cuts, or that the tines cut. I'll go into a little bit more about that in an upcoming clip. But you might also notice me not necessarily fighting it, but clearly I have to help it along a little bit. I'm not pushing it totally, but again, I have to help it along a little bit. And that's really because of the counter-rotating tines. The front tires, which are self-propelled, just simply can't get as much grip in this loose soil as the counter-rotating tines. The rotating tines are spinning the opposite direction as the tires. So I think they get a little more grip. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about that in an upcoming clip. And here I took a little break. You might or might not notice I'm wearing a lighter jacket than I had on previously. I was starting to sweat like a dancing horse, even though it's a cold and blustery day. I did work up a pretty good sweat pushing that thing along. So I've got a lighter jacket on now. And one other thing worth mentioning, I think I did mention this on a previous video, the area of the garden that you can see that I haven't cultivated yet looks like it's full of weeds. Those aren't really weeds. At the end of the season or in the fall, when we're all done in the garden, I cultivate and then we plant mustard and just let it grow and let it die and just cultivate that back into the soil. It's pretty good for the soil, adds some nitrogen and other nutrients. So that explains that. I'm sure there's a few weeds in there. Nobody can get rid of all the chickweed that we have around here. And here you can see wrapping things up. I'm sure I didn't time it exactly, but I'm sure it took me, less than an hour, far less than an hour to cultivate the whole garden. Probably took me longer to, get it dragged out and started. And of course, in the next clip, I'll talk about the maintenance that I do after I'm done using it. So twice a year, it's not bad to handle. And when I'm done with the cultivating, I like to cut a good clean edge into the outside of the garden. It's not really for looks, it's to keep the grass from creeping into the garden. In the background, you might hear some tinkling noises. Those are my mold deterrents, the little metal washers tapping against the metal posts. Seems to be working good. And also my currant bushes and berry bushes seem to be doing quite well. So just giving the cultivator a service. I don't change the oil after each time I use it. And really, I only use it once in the spring and once in the fall. I change the oil maybe once a year, maybe even a little longer than that, just because it really only runs an hour in the fall and an hour in the spring. I do grease it each time. I did check the belt, I think last fall. It looked real good yet. I did change the oil this time just because I hadn't done it last fall. I won't bore you with the filming of all that. I'm sure those of you that understand oil changes have seen it all before, and those that don't really don't want to watch me change the oil. But now that I've got it in the garage here, again, this is a Husqvarna. I bought it in America and shipped it here in the container, which, you know, I think it was still kind of a good decision to do that because they're quite a bit more expensive here. Briggs & Stratton engine, which is pretty common. You can see here it's a 14-inch wide path, which isn't real wide, which also is why you saw me kind of maybe not fighting it, but you know, it takes a lot to keep this thing kind of in a straight line. The other thing that I'll mention here is this counter-rotating tines. That, in hindsight, I think was a mistake. I mean, theoretically, it sounds like a great idea, and I bought it intentionally for that, but basically what it means, counter-rotating tines, is as the wheels spin forward, it's self-propelled. I shouldn't have to push it at all. The tines go the opposite direction. So theoretically, it should give you a better dig, a better bite. But what I've found, unfortunately, is because my soil in the garden is so loose now and fluffy, the tires can't actually get as much grip as the tines get when they're spinning backwards. So it doesn't really all the time propel itself forward. I've got to help it along. I've got to give it a little bit of a push. It works great on really hard ground or ground that's not already kind of fluffy. But in hindsight, I probably would not have bought this counter-rotating tines setup. My mistake, but to any of you in the market for buying a cultivator, I would recommend against it. I would actually prefer, if I was to do it over again, to get one that's got the tines in the front and that they spin forward, and really all you've got to do is walk behind it, kind of control it and hold it back. It's a lot easier to hold things back than to push them. But again, in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have gotten that, but all in all, it's been a pretty good machine. You know, I'm kind of contemplating maybe getting rid of it. Like I said, I use it for an hour in the spring and an hour in the fall. I'd almost be better off just renting one, maybe selling this for a couple €100. But the other thing worth mentioning is it kind of isn't running the best the last few years. I mean, it runs, it starts right up usually, assuming I've got the on-off switch actually set correctly. But when it's running, especially when it's cultivating, it's kind of got a surge to it. It's got to be something wrong with the carburetor or the choke. I've taken the carburetor apart, I've cleaned it, I've put it back together, nothing looks wrong with the float, so I don't know. I do put fuel stabilizer in here, especially being that it sits for 6 months at a time. So I don't know what's going on with that. It's not a big deal, it still does the job, but we'll see what happens. So here's an interesting thing. This little tree we've had for several years. Obviously it used to be a lot smaller. In the US, I think we call this a mountain ash. Here in Europe, at least English translation, they call it a rowan, R-O-W-A-N. It's one of those trees that's got all those orange berries hanging on it in the summertime. But basically, you can see these reinforcement pipes, which here in Lithuania you need for any skinny tall tree to just reinforce against the wind, which we get a lot of. And I did have this reinforced right about here last year. Well, last summer we had a heck of a windstorm and it broke. It snapped right off right about here, and it really snapped off. It was just basically hanging by the bark. And my wife was pretty
upset about it. So she had this idea to try to put it back together. So we put this splint or this brace in there and then duct taped it all back together. And then we reinforced it a little higher. I told her she was crazy, that this tree was a goner. There was no way taping it back together was gonna work. Well, you can see this thing is budding just fine. So I definitely owe my wife an apology. I think I had done something, or I had said something like, you know, if this tree lives, I'll eat my hat. So I guess I better prepare to start eating my hat. But back to my hero red green, duct tape, the handyman's secret weapon did the trick. It doesn't look very good, but unbelievably this tree looks like it may survive. A little bit of redneck ingenuity going on here.
And for those of you who haven't seen my previous videos when I was talking about cleaning the moss off of my pavers or bricks, I did some calculations and basically in every square meter of pavers, there are 13 meters of cracks or gaps between each of the pavers that I need to scrape. So I have approximately 183 square meters of pavers. By doing the math on all that, that means that I, on my hands and knees, scrape 2,379 meters of moss or cracks, which equates to 1.48 miles. It's a wonder that I've got a bad back